and pulled up like, oh good, I'm going to get the space. And it was around the holidays, so it's packed. And I pulled up, and I did like this so they'd go around me so I could back in the space. And he honked, I pulled up more, and did that again. And then he pulled out, jumped out, and asked me why I was yelling at him. And I was like, I wasn't yelling, I'm trying to get the space. You know, like I'm excited that it's right in front of the restaurant where she's coming out. Got my license. The other one, I got out and said I'm a council member. They told me to get back in the car. I gave them my shield and my police ID. I'm a council member. So.
And he said he swore at you at that point?
No, the other officer, when I came back and said I'm letting, you know, I'm waiting for my 80-year-old mother who is picking up food to go. He said, I don't give a shit if she's 100. And at that point, I was just like, wow.
Is there any justification whatsoever for them to have treated you that way?
You tell me. I would say not. And I think that's the problem. There is no, whatever I do, and even in this job, if I disagree with someone, I can do it respectfully. I don't have to curse everyone. You know, swearing shows your limited vocabulary and your ignorance.
What does it say to you that that's how you were treated after you disclosed that you were a council member?
I think it speaks volumes, and I think the fact that, going to your question, I think the fact that it wasn't acknowledged or even mentioned after I mentioned to the commissioner shows that there's a problem, and it stems from the top. Because if you don't have to acknowledge it, deal with it from the commissioner, then why should officers, I believe they were from the 4-6, why should they?
Did you say they had a gun, that someone showed their gun?
Oh,
no. Okay, sorry, I misheard you.
What did these guys look like? I mean, do you think there was a component of this that had anything to do with what they looked like, you looked like?
Well, one was Latino, one was white. I think more so than color, it has to do with the color blue and how the community is policed. And I started off my questioning with, you know, I have a good relationship with the inspector from my local precinct. My community officers are great. However, this is what happened to me. And the fact that, you know, I went through the CCRB, was interviewed, I haven't heard anything back. But the fact that this can occur, and it's not an isolated incident, and there was no shock or outrage on the commissioner's part, right, nothing. I think it's indicative of what many of us feel.
Do you think, I mean, they may not even remember this, but you do, I'm sure, that you had kind of a testy exchange with the chair last time at the stop and frisk, and the commissioner was here for that. Do you think they knew?
No, you remember the police department didn't show up for that hearing.
You're right. So they didn't, it's not like they knew you or who you were. This was just kind of a reaction, you think, to you're waving them over, you know?
Yeah, I mean, when I identified myself, nothing changed. I think the commissioner is aware of my concerns, because when we held the hearing on the Sean Bell shooting and different shootings like that, routinely it has happened in the past that my father has been pulled over. You know, he's 89 now, but at 86 and 87, what description could he fit? You know, an old man driving a Volvo.
Right.
So it's not an isolated incident, and I think what happened with me is what people in my community have learned to deal with, and the fact that with these cameras, equally as important as monitoring for crimes, people are interested in police conduct being monitored. Because right now there is no monitoring, and there's an attitude from both the mayor and the commissioner that the response is appropriate for the community. And, you know, I've lived in my area of the Bronx all my life. I've spent time on Arthur Avenue for at least 20 years. And what does that say? Does that make me any less valued as a person than if I lived on the Upper East Side or West Side? And I know those attitudes and that type of policing doesn't occur. And, you know, due to that incident, I would never, if I were pulled over by the police, I would have to keep driving until I was in a location that I felt safe. I don't feel safe.
How effective do you think the council has been in curbing some of these practices by the police?
I'm sorry?
How effective do you think the council has been in trying to curb these kind of practices by the police or these
I
policies?
think the council can be only so effective because, again, it's an attitude that comes from the mayor and the commissioner, and to a large extent, the chair. It's very, in my opinion, them and those people and what they deserve. And when you don't acknowledge that there could be an issue from the top, of course, the officers don't have to deal with it, don't have to address it.
Did you report it to the council? You just reported it to CCRB or also to the council?
No, I spoke to the chief of staff, Chuck Mara, right after it happened. I mean, it was, as I said, right after
the day of the boots, right?
I literally, maybe 2 or 3 days after I'd gotten word that my sister was in a tour bus crash in Switzerland and was in ICU. So, you know, I'm literally going to pick up dinner because we're all scrambling, working to get me to Switzerland to be with her. So it was an emotional time anyway, and that just, by the time Chuck got on the phone, I was like a slobbering mess. And whomever he spoke to, I believe at the police department, said the way to do it is through CCRB.
Okay.
And I've been interviewed by CCRB, and I haven't heard anything back in probably, I want to say, a month and a half, almost 2 months.
How was your sister about that?
Much better, thank God.
Okay.